because of the volume that you're sending it, it will just like it's like a what's the word? It's like like a Jenga tower just tumble in a good way because it'll be 5, 6, 7 calls and you don't know what to do with them. So that's the benefit of the volume. It really is, and just getting that sorted out with deliverability and stuff like that. I'll have a look at your email.
Yeah, no worries.
No. All right. Perfect. Anybody else have any questions? No worries. If not, I'll look back around at the end of the training and ask again, and you can let me know if you need help with anything. So today I'm going to dive into a little bit of training, and I've been waiting to deliver this particular training because I had to get my thoughts straight. I had to remember a lot of stuff, first of all, from the meetings that I had, and I had to obviously try and put it into words, the thoughts and the discussions that we were having. So really, this is a culmination of the dinners that I had, the conversations, the meetings throughout the day, the lunches that we had, all those hours and hours of conversations with somebody who is 35 years old, who has built a $70 million business in 3 years from scratch, from zero, from absolutely nothing. And these are the 30 things I could pull from the conversations that were the most insightful, they had the biggest impact on me. And I've structured this in a few different pillars of learning, right? From like your mindset to the money models to things like that. I've structured it in a way that should have us thinking a certain way as we progress through it, without having to jump back and forth between different ideas. Now, if you have particular questions about what we're doing here, if one of these really hits you and you want to discuss it and you want to dive in a bit deeper, you want to ask a particular question about it, just unmute yourself and ask. I cannot see the chat in this, so feel free to just unmute yourself, talk over me. It's not a problem at all. So, give you a little bit of background. I've spoken a bit about this last month. I flew into North Carolina and I had an entire week basically with this guy. Now, I've known this guy for 5, 6, 7 years now, run about there. And I met him actually in a Facebook group. And it was a $14 group to join. That's what it cost. And I remember when I first started, that was a lot of money, believe it or not. $14 a lot. It's a big decision for me to join that group for $14. He was in there too. And I think he responded to one of my posts at one point, and we got chatting. He launched that he had one of those fix-it shops, with the ones where they fixed mobile phones, like iPhones. Like it was an iPhone fix-it type shop, right, where they fixed iMacs as well and phones. That was his business. He had that franchise. It was doing relatively well. And when the shutdowns happened back in 2020, his business was in malls, right? He had a store in a mall. It basically shut down overnight, right? Nobody just couldn't operate. So he stopped all of that. He basically lost everything at that point. And before that, he was running a few different things like e-commerce stores. And he had an e-commerce store. And we ran the ad campaigns where he asked me to run the ad campaigns. And I did that. And we kept selling out of products. Like he couldn't get the stock in fast enough. So that worked really well, but we couldn't get enough stock for whatever reason. So that was okay. Fine. Fair enough. Then last 18 months ago, 2 years ago, right about then, he knocked on my door, hypothetically speaking, and sent me a message saying, look, I remember you kept selling out the stock. I'd like you to come and look at this business that I've got going. And it was moving quite quickly. It was scaling quite quickly. And he told me that he had no money when he first started this. He was in a loft apartment with basically that flatmate or roommate. And in this loft apartment, he barely left the door. He was really, really down, really, really depressed, and he was drinking quite a lot and smoking quite a lot, just really not in a good place. And then all of a sudden, it flipped. And within 3 years, with no money whatsoever, he built a $70 million business. $70 million. To start it, I've told you this before, but he took a $30,000 loan to purchase or to basically finance equipment that he needed. He didn't have the customer base. He had nothing, no customers, no potential customers. He just went all in, took this money from, I think it was a credit union, or a bank wouldn't give him the money, but a credit union or something, and bought the equipment and started working, started operating, and opened the doors. 3 years later, he's at $70 million. It's a ridiculous, ridiculous progression. Now, I flew into North Carolina to see him a month ago, and my eyes were completely opened when I spent time with him. It was like a different animal. It was unbelievable. And as I said, I've known him for 6 years, from when he had nothing, when he was depressed, struggling. I've seen the entire journey, the whole thing. And now he takes me out and he'll spend $600 in dinner for the two of us like it's nothing. I think the brunch we had was about 400 or so. It was madness, right? Just for the two of us, no alcohol, nothing, just the food, just food. And I saw his entire business, and we actually run the ads for it right now. I've seen the warehouse. I've met the entire team. And we spent 4 hours on a Wednesday night at dinner, just the two of us, chatting the whole time. So today I'm going to let you in on the lessons that he taught me, and I'm going to be sharing them with you. Now, the first part we're going to call pillar number 1, which is the inner game. The first things, and these are going to be 30 different points, and I'm going to dive into them in a bit more detail and discuss them. 30 different points that I pulled from the conversations. Now, the first one is your environment matters. You've got to surround yourself with positive energy at all times. And I often say it about groups like ours here, right? Where there are people doing things, there are people taking action, there are people having a lot of success. The energy can be very infectious. You've got to surround yourself and you've got to build that bubble. He was dead set on this. He pays a lot of money for different mentors in different spaces, right? From his health and fitness to his lifestyle, to business itself. He was at I'm assuming most people are relatively familiar with Alex Hormozi. He was at those workshops. He paid like $15K to be at those workshops. He's been to like 4 of them. He was also up for investment from them. He discussed the investment thing where they do like where they invest, or Hormozi invests in your business. They didn't go forwards with that because it was $100,000 just to get started, and he didn't think it was worth it. But that's the level he's working with, right? He pays to surround himself with that environment because it lifts him up. It accelerates him forwards. And I've found this actually when I was out in Toronto for quite some time. I had a certain identity in Toronto because I'd never been there before. I created my identity. I went in as who I was today. And I surrounded myself with those types of people. And I had this incredible energy there. But then I came home. And it took me a little while to get out of who I was growing up and such, who people remembered me as, who I was previously, which was just a regular guy, right? It took me a second to get out of that. And I realized I had to build my own environment at home as well. Like I couldn't go back into the same environment because it dragged me down. Now that doesn't mean like not spending time with family and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have to limit the impact. You can't take what opinions people around you in your home environment put on you, because they might be the old version of you. They might be who you're no longer. You have to build and surround yourself with people and allow them into your world that think the same way you do. And it's very hard to find this actually at home in our local areas. It's very hard to do it. But you can find it online. You can find it in communities just like this one. You can find it with me as well. I will lift you up. I'll give you that positive energy, but you have to protect it. This is your bubble. You have to protect it. It's so important. Now, the second one was that everything happens for a reason. You cannot be afraid to go to zero because the world has a plan for you and things are brought to you at the right time. And this one really hit me because I was always somebody who tried to force everything. I tried to make things happen all the time, and that's the wrong way to go about it. Yep, someone got a question? Just check here. Oh, Claire. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I can't see the chat. So that's the break there. But yeah, so everything I always try to force everything, and that's not how you want to go about it. He basically said to me at the dinner table, I remember because this is one that where was this one? This was over a steak dinner. This one I can bring it all back to meals that I had, which is probably a terrible thing. But anyway, this one was over the steak dinner on the Wednesday night, which was about 4 hours long, and he said that everything happens to him for a reason. Like I was brought to him for a reason. The conversations, the random fact that we met, that we, and we've quadrupled his business as a result, right? That relationship, the random comment he responded to is the reason that his business has quadrupled. Not because of magical stuff that we do, it's just meeting the right people at the right time, the right people crossing your path at certain times. That's the reality. So everything happens for a reason, but you cannot be afraid to go to zero. You cannot be thinking, well, I don't want to lose everything. That's going to have you in a very defensive mindset. And we don't want to be operating from that position. We cannot be defensive. We've got to be aggressive. We've got to be positive. We've got to be pushing forwards. We've got to be trying to grow without looking back. Because the second you try and grow defensively, it's when it won't work. You've got to go all in. Just like he did with the $30,000 loan, right? Like that's gone all in. Number 3, quitting is always an option. It's so easy. It's so effortless to just stop. So easy to do that. And if you want to quit, just do it. But first, before you do, you have to admit to yourself that you aren't capable and you aren't willing to keep the promise you made to yourself. Now, that sentence is actually very important. The first sentence sounds polarizing, but the second sentence is actually where the value lies. Because the fact that you're here, as I've said before, the fact that you're on this call or this workshop, the fact you're in this group, the fact that you have access to this is because you aren't like a regular person. You asked the different questions. You didn't accept that you just go to work, earn money, go home, make dinner, go to sleep, get up, do it again, and struggle to pay the bills. You won't accept that. You know there's more out there for you, which means you know you're capable of it. Because if I'm capable of it, why aren't you? Of course you are. I'm just like you. So you know you're capable of it. But people like us, we won't admit to ourselves that we're not capable because we're too stubborn to do that. We know we're never going to do that. So when we hold that in our brain, when we put that friction in front of quitting and admitting that we weren't good enough, we're never going to do it. And it keeps pushing you forwards. Because quitting, as we said, is always an option. It's always there. You can just stop tomorrow. You can just sit on the sofa and do nothing if you want to. It's a choice. And it's easy. You're not going to be under any physical stress or mental stress by doing so. You can just stop. There's nothing stopping you. But you aren't built like that. So when you put that friction in front of it, all of a sudden, quitting becomes a different story. Quitting becomes letting yourself down and not keeping the promise that you made to yourself. Number 4, your home environment is extremely important. You need to be able to sleep comfortably at night, and you've got to protect it. You've got to keep it clean and clear. If it's not good enough, work harder. That's the reality, right? There's no excuses with it. I mentioned earlier the bubble. This is part of your bubble. Your home environment should inspire you. And if it doesn't, that inspires you to make it better, right? Think about that. If it doesn't naturally inspire you when you wake up in the morning, that's enough. That's the inspiration that you need to go make it inspire you, to work harder, to unlock that next level, to unlock that home environment that you really want. You can make it happen. I've told you the story before. Right? I've told this many, many times. When I first moved to Canada, the first time, I remember I've said before, I had nothing. I didn't even have a work. I had a tourist visa. I didn't have a work visa. I had nothing at the time. I didn't even have money. Nothing. Literally, people owed me £1,600. It was because they were supposed to take over a lease on a flat I had in Belgium, and they basically bailed on it. I was in a bad place, a bad situation, and as a birthday gift, it wasn't a birthday gift. It was a feel better gift. Alyssa had a little bit of money, and she bought me the gift of like this tourist pass. Okay, we went up the CN Tower in Canada. If you've ever seen Canada, the CN Tower, the tall one, we went up the escalator, the elevator to the top floor, and I said to her, I said, one day we're gonna have one of those glass box apartments. And bear in mind, I had nothing at this point. Within about, that was in August. By May, we were moving to Toronto in a glass box apartment because I made it happen. It's about understanding and manifesting that you can get there, you can achieve it, you can make it happen. And if it's not good enough, work harder to make it happen. There's no excuses. Doesn't matter if you have nothing, you can get there. It's about believing you can get there. So your home environment is super important. If it isn't good enough, make it good enough. Work harder to get to that point where it lifts you up. It makes you feel incredible. It makes you feel proud, because that's going to spur you on even more. It's like a car, right? Why do people who are successful buy nice cars? Because every time they get in the car, it reminds them who they are. They feel good every time, which spurs them on to do more. They don't settle. Super important. Now, this one, your mind is going to trick you. Your mind is going to tell you that you can't do it. It will tell you don't have time to do it. It will tell you that the reason you aren't successful is because you don't have time. You have to ask yourself, do you think the successful person just had 18 hours where they could sit at a desk and work? No, they didn't. They absolutely didn't. They did what they had to do despite the challenges, all the things going on, right? They did this despite all of that. This is your mind trying to trick you into comfort. And those who fuel themselves with comfort will never progress. You've got to be very careful with this one. And this is one that really stuck with me. When he said this to me, and obviously he doesn't tell me this directly, right? It's the stories he would tell me. And he was okay. He was fine. He was comfortable, right? He had a little bit of money to pay the rent in the loft apartment, the loft type thing they had. He was fine. He had to make money somehow. He didn't have all the hours in the day because I believe he had to get a job at that point. But he still made it happen. On the side, he still made it happen, despite all of it. And now, $70 million business because of the mindset. So your mind is going to trick you. Your mind is going to make up all these excuses to tell you why you shouldn't have something, why you shouldn't do something. But it's not true, right? The person who achieves these things is the person who actually does all of it despite all the things that go against them, all the bad luck they might have, or all the people that tell them they can't do it, all the surprise bills they get from left, right, and center. They do it despite all of this. Number 6, you cannot think negatively. You need to hold positive energy in your mind at all times. Negative things happen around us. If you let negative energy into your mind, you're going to sit and do nothing. Whereas if you're simply positive, your actions take over and they create this positive environment, which leads to success. It's almost like people, I remember growing up, probably when I was like, maybe this must be decades ago, but I remember a moment, and I've spoken about this before in some of our calls, where there's certain moments in your life that you remember vividly, certain things people say to you. And the amount of times when I was probably about 20 or so, where I was called delusional, was is unbelievable, right? Like, because I would talk about making £100,000 per year when I was, making £18,000 per year, because that was my first ever salary in a salary job, £18,000, and I would talk about making 100,000. I would get called delusional all the time, but it wasn't delusion. Maybe it was delusion to some extent, but what it was doing was it was creating this positive environment in my head. It was creating this energy. It was creating this belief that it was possible. And as a result, I took action because I believed it could happen. I was positive about it. I didn't let fear get in the way. And I remember really, really clearly, I was living in Edinburgh at the time in Scotland, and I had a flatmate who was a tax advisor. And this is like, if you, he was, Phil, I know you're on this call, but if you were to draw the typical tax advisor, this is the guy you would draw. Stickler to the rules. But he, I was doing some stuff I learned online, something called matched betting, where it was an income stream, and he was terrified to do it. It was nothing wrong with it. It was just using free bets that bookmakers gave you, right? And I was doing this, and I was making like £2,000 extra per month. But he was terrified. He just saw all the negatives. He would never do it, despite me saying to him, "Look, this is what I'm doing. This is how you do it. We can do this together." He never wanted to do it. But my delusion, my positive belief system that I could do it, meant I would take the action. He's still working in Edinburgh today doing the same thing. I'm not. So you've got to have yourself in this positive environment and the belief that you can do it, because it is possible. It 100% is possible. And I don't want you to believe the hype out there of all the 18-year-old kids that you see that are driving Lamborghinis and stuff. That's not that stuff. Don't believe any of that. What you want to look at is you want to look at the people. And this is why I'm giving you this example. These are business owners who have zero social profile. Zero. You will not find anything about them online. They basically have no social media. I think he has like 120 Instagram followers. That's it. I think he's posted 4 times. You'll find nothing. But yet, he has a $70 million business. So don't believe the hype that you see out there. You have to focus on the real business owners, the ones that do things consistently, the ones that have been around for a long time, that are consistent in their actions. Believe that. That's where things are possible, not the hype side of things, the reality. Now we're moving on to pillar number 2, which is the money mindset. And this one was very, very interesting to me, the first one. You cannot give to get, but when you do give, you will get 6 times given back to you. Basically, what he was saying was, you cannot give based on the expectation that you're going to get something back. You can't give and think, well, I'm going to give to this person because I'm going to get 6 times that back. No, you can't do that. You have to give without any expectation. But when you do give to people, when you do give extra, when you give more effort, when you give more to them, you're going to get 6 times more than you gave back. For example, he was telling me a story that one of his employees was now doing well. He pays them really well. Pays every employee basically over 100,000 per year, every single one, except the ones in the warehouse who are on hourly rates. But everybody who's in the growth side of the business, or any management roles, minimum 100,000 per year, minimum. And basically, for the first time, this employee was in a good position, and he wanted to buy a new car. So what he did was he said, you put money down on this car, put your down payment on the car, and I'm going to match it. Whatever you give, doesn't matter. I'm going to match it. So he put 10,000 on the car. He also gave him $10,000, just like that. No expectation of getting anything back. He just gives. When he's in restaurants, this was something, obviously, everyone in the US will understand the tipping culture and such. In the UK, that's not a thing. He would give $200-300 like nothing to people for nothing, or just for the service, because he was giving. He was always giving to others. And it was a very interesting concept because I never really thought of it like that. But he puts the energy out simply on the belief that he's doing good things. And of course, it then comes back to them. Number 8, you cannot be afraid of spending money. You need to be willing to let go. Spending money makes things better. It makes your business better, which means you get paid more. It's an ecosystem. So you have to be willing to let go. You've got to be willing to invest. You've got to be willing to say, look, I'm going to not take $1,000 today because it's going to make me $10,000 in 3 months. You've got to be okay in that level of discomfort because it works like, it's like an ecosystem. It really is. If you can simply let go of that attachment and you allow the money to work for you, it's going to multiply. It works like a multiplier. So you have to push it out there. So don't be afraid. Do not be afraid of spending money. Don't do it I'm not saying to go buy, like, a new pair of shoes. Like, I'm talking about spending money or investing money, let's say, in your business. You cannot be afraid of doing so, because if we think about it like a wheel, investing money in your business makes that wheel spin faster. When that wheel spins faster, you make more money. If you don't do that, you never escape that cycle. You never break free of it. So you can't be hesitant. You've got to be very aggressive with it. And this is something that really hit me because, if you know anything about Scottish people, they hoard money. That's just a stereotype, but it's true. It's 100% true. The culture here is to not spend money, right? You don't talk about money. You just don't touch it. So for me, this is like a culture. I've got to break the cultural barriers to do it. And it was something that I never really fully appreciated, but it's incredibly true, and it explains why so many people go so fast in the US, because they're willing to spend money. That's the difference. That's why a lot of people say to me, because they work with UK companies, that they don't pay, because they're all afraid culturally, they're afraid to do it, but they have to do it. Number 9, reinvestment is your multiplier. You need to keep that wheel spinning faster and faster, because after a few months of aggressively doing this, a few months of feeling uncomfortable, you look back and the cash injections that you're getting are 10 times bigger than they were before. If you don't do this, you're going to remain stuck, right? It's not about making incremental bits of more money, like a straight line. No. It's about reinvesting in your business. It's almost like you build up this, it's like an avalanche, right? The snow builds and builds and builds and builds on the mountaintop. Then all of a sudden, all of it just flows down. And that's basically your cash injection, right? Your reinvestment builds up and up and up and up and up in your business. Then all of a sudden, it starts to just come back to you. And it happens in extreme ways. That's why you can go from nothing to very successful so quickly, because you're spinning the wheel. And that's how it works. If you don't do it, you'll never pick up enough pace. Whenever things get tight, you're going to retreat. You're going to get scared. You're not going to want to spend the money. So you start getting tighter and less positive and less investment heavy. Things slow down. It's like a vicious cycle. Whereas if you just buckle down and you do this aggressively, you're going to find that you escape that cycle, and the cash injections are much, much bigger. Number 10, this is again something that he changed my belief process of. Trying to cut costs is not going to get you anywhere. You've got to embrace the cost and go make more money. It doesn't matter what it costs, go make more. So rather than trying to cut your expenses to stay at a certain percentage of your income, when your expenses increase, go make more money so that the percentage stays the same. So let's say your expenses, you're comfortable with your expenses at 40% of your income, right? Let's just hypothetical numbers. When your expenses increase and it goes up to 50%, don't try and cut costs to get it back down to 40. Go make more money so that your new income, your new expenses are now 40% of your new income. When you think like this, it changes how you work. It changes the actions that you take. Instead of retreating and going backwards all the time, instead of getting scared and trying to tighten, you go forward aggressively. And the momentum shift is unbelievable. So again, this is something that really, really caught me because, I run a lot of ads. I run ads all the time. And just like Vaughn was asking earlier with the Facebook updates, there's volatility sometimes. I also saw something, if any of you have come across in the female entrepreneur space, Jenna Kutcher, you won't see much of her ads because she mainly markets to females. So obviously I don't see the ads, but I've come across them before on social media and such. She told me, or she didn't tell me, she had a podcast where I learned from what she said that she hasn't turned her ads off in 8 years. 8 years. Through all the volatility, through all the ups and downs, she just kept them running, no matter what. And her business skyrocketed as a result of that. The difference is when it gets volatile, people become scared. They start turning things off. They don't move forwards. Whereas super successful person, she never turns them off. She just keeps going because she doesn't go backwards. But as a result, she gets the payoff. So again, sometimes you have to cut costs, right? Sometimes you have to look at it. You've got to be reasonable and say, well, things are getting more expensive. Sure, we're not trying to be ridiculous here, but it's a mindset. The underlying message here is that it's a mindset, it's a belief, it's a philosophy, it's a principle of aggressive action, moving forwards aggressively rather than ever letting the thought of defensiveness get into your brain. Number 11, bullshit is going to fly at you from all angles at all times, and it's not going to stop. You're never going to get to a point where, well, I've got enough money now, I don't have the same problems. No, your problems just change. Sometimes they even get bigger. There's always going to be something. I remember when I was over there, I was supposed to go into the office on the Friday afternoon, it was, in the warehouse. And he basically called me and said, like 11 a.m., he's like, I'm going to have to go home because my head is absolutely splitting. So you think $70 million, but he had 2 employees leave that week. 2 pretty important, not like they're in the warehouse, but they're important employees who run the machines. 2 of them leave. He has HR people that can hire, but the problem still comes back to him, just in a different format. That's still a headache, right? That's still nonsense that he's got to deal with. Might not be a lack of revenue, but the problem changes. It's about how you react to it, right? We can't react emotionally towards things. The way we have to work is we just have to accept it. You very calmly accept it. If you take a financial hit, we accept it, then we go execute on making more money. This might sound difficult. You might think, well, sometimes it feels terrible. Absolutely. It feels terrible for everybody. But once you realize that when you just accept it and you just absorb it for 10 seconds, then move on, it doesn't impact you anymore. You move on to fixing. I've done this so many times you would not believe. The amount of times things have come across my desk that I've got to deal with that would annoy anybody, but you just absorb it, move on. And you build this pattern in your brain where nothing actually hurts you anymore. Nothing impacts you because you just accept it and you move on. And he operates like this at all times. Number 12, thinking small does not work. It's going to keep you trapped. We often, all of us think, well, charging money, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 per month, businesses will not be willing to pay that. Sure, some won't. But there are so many businesses out there that spend fortunes every single month. The money flows and they think abundantly. If you think small, you're going to trap yourself with others that think small, with clients that think small. When you think abundantly, you attract those who think abundantly too. Now, a very good example of this, to give you some context as to how much money actually flows. If you remember back to 2020, 2021, through the shutdowns and all that kind of stuff, companies like Home Depot, right? They use a lot of flyers. They print a lot of flyers out and post them through doors, brochures, offer booklet things, all that kind of stuff. The printers they use, they'll all have relationships with. They don't want to lose the pricing. They don't want to lose their place. So if you remember back in 2020, 2021, they couldn't hand out any leaflets. You couldn't have leaflets go through the door because people couldn't touch it, right? So all of a sudden you think, well, there's no use in the leaflets. Companies like Home Depot continued, and this is going to, like, if we talk about killing the trees, this is going to drive people crazy, but they continued printing and placing $100,000 per month of orders every month for 18 months where they couldn't send out leaflets. And this wasn't Home Depot, it's like a comparable, different company. But 18 months where they couldn't send out any leaflets, they kept printing. They basically just burned them or left them in a corner, but basically burned them, right? Why did they do that? Why would they spend $1 to $1.8 million on paper they're never going to send out? Just to not lose their place in the queue with the printer. So they didn't lose the priority they received otherwise. So when we're thinking, will a company pay $1,000 per month or $2,000 per month? There are companies out there that will burn $1 million to $1.8 million just not to lose their place. That happens all the time. When they take clients out for, I remember another really good example of this is when I worked in finance. They would basically gift a team of 12 salespeople, all expenses paid trips to South Africa or around the wineries, or into there's a Western style ranch experience you can have in Montana. They would send them to that, all expenses paid, probably about 5,000 to 6,000 per person. They send 12 of them twice per year just to incentivize them. That's it. They spend $100K easily just on that little thing. So when we think about this, there's so much money that flows. Of course, there's people that will pay us. Of course, there's people out there that are happy to pay other businesses. You just have to put yourself in a position where the money flows and not think small. You don't have to help everybody. Help the right people. The third pillar here is execution and growth. First one, launch quickly and never hold back. Never. You have to be in a position where you're launching in 3-4 days. You're not spending weeks trying to do it. You're just getting the idea, getting the minimum viable, launch. We can always fix it after the fact. But when you build that pattern of fast execution and fast launching, all of a sudden, the momentum builds up. Things start to happen. One of your offers clicks and you never look back. But you never hold back. You never defensively do it. You must follow the plan and you must execute. And that's exactly what he told me. He wanted to open up a new place out on his business surrounds the four corners of the US and he needed to open something up on the West Coast. They basically went out there, flew out there, rented a warehouse facility spent 100,000 on machinery and just opened the doors. Didn't do anything, just went for it. Didn't have the orders, didn't have anything, nothing. Just opened the door. Came up with the idea, executed on it. Number 14, don't reinvent the wheel. Do things people already do faster and better. There's so much space in the market for you to be better than someone else. So much space. How many times have you spoken to a client that's had a bad experience before? How many times? There are so many people out there that will not do a good job and they don't care. So instead of reinventing the wheel and coming up with the next best thing, all we do is do what people already do, but we do it a bit faster. We do it a bit better. And that's exactly what he does. But what he does, there are thousands of companies that do it. He just does it faster. He just does it better. He just pays more attention to detail. He focuses more on the quality. That's all he does. Yet he wins the business. Number 15, you need to take the chance, make the move before you're ready. The stars are never going to align perfectly for that particular day where you feel like everything is perfect for you to go. You have to go and then look back, just like he did, right? Just like he did with the $30,000 loan before actually having any customers. He took the chance, everything else followed. He made the aggressive move and things started to happen for him. And this is what you have to do. You've got to take the chance. You've got to make that move well before you ever feel perfect or you ever feel ready. The next one, number 16, at the end of each day, you've got to ask yourself if you actually did what you had to do. Did you operate quickly? Did you operate efficiently? Things are always going to come up. They're going to be thrown in your way, but you need to stick to the non-negotiables that you set for yourself. It's like keeping the promises to yourself, right? And he said that to me. He said that each morning he gets up and he does his bit of exercise. Now, this guy's not in great shape. It's not as if he's one of these athletes you see on Instagram, the business owners, you know, have you ever seen that Andy Elliott guy who, if you don't have a six-pack, you can't work for him? It's not like that. Nothing like that. It's more so because the movement puts him in a good mood, right? Makes him feel better. It's hard for him to do that. But every day he gets himself up and he moves. Then he goes to work. Then he gets through his to-do list. So every day he sticks to the promise that he makes to himself. Every single day. And they can be simple promises, just like I was saying to Chloe earlier, where it is 20, if she's sending 20 emails and 20 messages, that's her minimum. Every day, Monday to Friday, 20 go out of each, no matter what. Just like I do. I've got my non-negotiables every single morning. I said yesterday, I've posted in the group for years, every single day, Monday to Friday. This is my non-negotiable. No matter what happens, no matter if it's 11 p.m. because I've been traveling all day, I guarantee you I will get that post out. So you've got to have your set of non-negotiables, the promises you keep to yourself, and you must keep them. You should go to your bed at night feeling pretty tired, right? Because you kept the promises that you set for yourself. Because when you feel good and you set the promises for yourself, you set ambitious promises. You set promise. We don't set weak promises, right? You don't sit and write in your notepad, sort of like fluffy stuff. You write down the stuff that actually makes progress. We all do it. So as long as you commit to fulfilling on that and holding that promise to yourself, your business is going to move forwards. But you must keep that promise. Number 17, he said to me, the majority of businesses out there are terrible. Their service level is awful. If you simply do it slightly better, you're going to win. And this is what I've always implemented in my business, right? One of our channels, as you know, is the Agency Lab. Time and time again, people tell us we've got incredibly good customer support. Very fast, right? We'll look into problems. Yep, we might need to look into a certain problem, but we'll get you the answer. We'll fix it. The reason we do that is because I know, based on what people have told me from thousands of people, any other time they've signed up for any form of license or whatever, the support's never there. It's always terrible. So what do we dedicate ourselves to? Being better than that. Delivering the experience where people feel the support is exceptional. We just do it better. It's the same thing, right? With our client work, we're more responsive. We're far more responsive. We're far faster implementing everything. I'm not saying we're the most talented. I'm sure there's some genius out there that's even better, but we'll do it faster than them. We'll pay better attention to detail. We will not make mistakes. Do it slightly better and you're going to win. Simple things. They'll make a huge difference. Number 18, hit really hard. He said, work hard, because what else are you doing? And it's true. When we think of what else are we actually doing? In all honesty, what are we going to fill our time? We look at retirement. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do in retirement. I got no idea. I know a guy that has a huge business. I've told you before, the Home Depot of Canada, right? This seems similar. He is 83 now. Still works. Has hundreds of millions. Still works. He takes webinars on what to do in retirement. He doesn't know what he's going to do. It's true though, right? When you're passionate about something, when you want to build something, when you want to build for yourself, for that life, for your family, you build because there's meaning and purpose behind it. That fills your day. That gives you the energy. So what are we honestly doing? What other things are more important? Right? What are we doing? We've all got plenty of time in the day. We've always got a few hours, because a few hours is all we need. Remember, what we do here is we build leveraged systems where time does not equal money. We build systems that multiply our time and multiply our efforts. So for us, working for 1 to 3 hours per day is the equivalent of someone else working for 20 hours a day. So all we have to do is work for 3 hours. That's it. Can we get 3 hours in the morning, afternoon, evening, late evening? 3 hours at one point. Can we find that somewhere? Of course we can. Because what else are we doing? Are we watching TV? We can either watch TV for those 3 hours, or we can build a better life, then watch TV. So I'm not saying we don't watch TV or relax. Of course we all do. Every one of us does. What I'm trying to say is we only have to work for short periods of time because we've got leverageable systems or leverage systems. You have to think, is there a 3 hour period in your day where you can make that growth work happen? Where you can ask that question, well, what else am I doing for that 3 hour period? What am I actually doing? That one really hit me actually when he said that to me, because I asked him, I said, are you going on vacation? He's like, what would I go on vacation for? Like, what am I going to do? Sit by a pool? I was like, well, okay, well, fair enough. I mean, sit by, it may be fun for a few days, but then what? It's true though. Like, what's he going to do on a 2-week vacation? Nothing. It's a different way of viewing it. Number 19, don't be rigid, be flexible in business. We don't treat it like a non-human machine. You've got to help people. We've got to take care of them. That little bit of extra money that you get because you gave someone a canned answer, or you didn't want to help them, or you wanted to charge them an extra $100 or whatever, will not impact you. But the energy and the momentum it can create will help you grow so much faster. Don't focus on the little bits, right? You've got to focus on the big picture. The extra $100 won't do anything for you. But the fact that because you did a favor for somebody, they might refer you 1, 2, 3 more people that could pay you $3,000, different story. So the little actions of not being fussy about the small things, not being like the biggest thing I hate is whenever you're dealing with a software company and they're being very rigid in what they're saying. And it's a stupid little thing, but they will not budge on it. They won't budge. That gives me a very, very bad impression. It really, really does. There's nothing worse than that. But it's like they're nickel and diming, right? They're all doing it. Just help people. Be flexible. Do people favors. Because, like I was saying earlier, if you give without expectation, you get back 6 times what you gave. So we do it by not being rigid, by not being robotic, but by being flexible. Pillar number 4, this is the second to last one, strategy and structure. So number 20 is your business should operate by slotting into a process a business is already doing. It should solve a problem and make it better. This will ensure you have a consistent flow of revenue coming in and stability. This is a very important one. It changed how I viewed things quite a lot, actually. Because he said to me, everybody always tries, especially with the wave of AI and all that kind of stuff, they try to create some brand new thing, like brand new way of getting customers or whatever. When that's the wrong way to view it, you should just make the process they use to get customers faster, better. And that's where we built the 18K blueprint from, right? It stemmed from this relationship where I could look at his business and I said, well, look, that business grew extremely quickly, like to a ridiculous level. What did they do? All they did was do something people were already doing, but making it a bit better. That was it. So with the likes of med spas, we're simply making the lifetime value of their existing customers stronger, making what they do already better, right? We're slotting in to become essential. We're getting them more customers from their existing customers. So what they already have, they're already taking customer phone calls. They're already trying to email their list with Black Friday promotions. They've just got no plan for it. So let's make it better. Let's make it faster. Let's make it easier. That's the beauty of it. That's all we have to do. That's what he does. That's what I do. We just slot in there. And the reason it gives you that consistent flow or revenue is because they can never turn it off. They were already doing it before. They don't want to go back to the weaker, slower, less reliable way they did it before. They want to keep the fast way that you provide so they don't turn it off. Number 21, the way you build your business is not through doing everything. It's through systemizing. You generate the cash flow. You reinvest it. It generates without you being there. That's the goal, right? That's the goal. Right now, we can use systems and automations to bring in business, to bring in customers, paying customers. That's a form of leverage. But we can take it even further, where we can even get to the point where you've got assistants that just plug the systems in, where you can literally walk down the street all day long. Don't know why you do that, but for 12 hours, go a 12-hour walk. Go for it. But your business still brings in revenue. Your customers are still delivered for. That's the position we want to get to. So you want to systemize. I was sitting at lunch with him, and bear in mind, this was about 12 o'clock, roughly 12 o'clock, around about there, maybe just after. He had been out doing his exercise in the morning, like I was telling you earlier. He then went to see one of his mentors, and then he came to lunch. I have access to his Shopify store, and we ate lunch for about 2 hours, and it was crazy. It was like all sorts. But anyway, we got to the elevator after lunch. We said, let's see how much it's done today. It had done 15,000 by lunch. He had done nothing. He was with me. Right. He had literally done nothing. And that's the position we want to get to, where you do not have to be there. So if there's a holy grail, if there's a North Star, if there's an end goal, it's where your money builds, it comes in, it generates, it's been fulfilled for. without you actually being there. And that's the stage we're going to get you to. That's the position we're going to get you to. That's the key. Number 22, money flows to the person who solves a simple problem well. That's it. There are thousands of businesses that will happily pay you for your services. Happily, just like I told you, businesses that spend ridiculous amounts of money, they'll pay you for your services. They'll pay you for the help. They absolutely will. They pay employees, right? Of course, they're going to be willing to pay you. There's such a mindset behind getting customers. Everybody thinks it's so hard to get customers. I've got to do sales calls. I've got, and they could give me challenging questions. When we strip it right back to, do you have a problem, Mr. or Mrs. Client? Yeah, we can fix that problem. Do you want to fix that problem? Yeah, I do. Here's the price to fix it. It's like if your sink explodes in the kitchen and there's water spraying everywhere and a plumber's staring at the mess and saying, you want to fix that or do you want to leave it? Here's the price to fix it. You're probably just going to take it, right? You're not in that moment going to shop around because they've got a problem. It's the same thing. We're just solving problems. So the money flows to the person who solves a simple, painful problem well. That's it. So simple. Simple as that. Solve the problem. Number 23, go where the simple money is already flowing. We're not trying to create the next Airbnb here, right? We're not trying to come up with some big, grand idea and then build a product or a service around that. No, we already know the money is flowing. So again, look at the MedSpa example. We already know where the money's flowing. They're already transacting. There's already customers coming in. It's a high growth business. The customers are paying already. The money flows. So we just go to where it already flows. We don't have to go find it. As in, we don't have to go find the money and create it. No, we just make it flow a little faster. That's it. So go where the simple money is already flowing. And that's exactly what they do. His business, basically, when one of his customers has an order from one of their customers, the order from him. So think about that though. In order to order from him, they must have transacted with a customer of their own. Money has exchanged hands there, right? The money's flown or flows. Then he steps in. So he's just going where the money already flows. And I want you to think about businesses that also do that, right? Look at the financial industry, mainly financial advising. That exists in areas where money is already flowing. People are already coming into money, whether it's inheritance, family money, maybe they've sold a business, they've made money. Money is flowing there, so they go and they make money from it. Same thing with real estate. They go where the money flows. People go to New York City because the volume of money flowing is a lot larger in transaction value, right? That's why they make more. But again, they're going where the money flows. That's all we have to do. So when we simplify this right down, all we have to do is solve a simple problem in an area where the money is already flowing. Number 24, be precise and don't half-ass anything. You need to operate and hold yourself to a standard that you respect. You've got to dress well, you've got to eat well, and build your identity as that person. For me, I like to work from home quite a lot because I've got the dogs, and I don't like to leave them home all day. So I like to work from home. Sometimes I go to an office. It depends. But I primarily like to work from home. Every single day, I get dressed properly as if I was going to an office. And it'll sound weird, but the second I go in my office at home, I put my shoes on. Sounds ridiculous, right? I walk inside to my office and put my shoes on. Why do I do that? Because if you're in a financial office, like I was, I didn't walk around there with no shoes on, right? Or slippers. I didn't do that. Of course I didn't. I was in an office environment. I do the same thing. It triggers to your mind that you're here to work. It triggers that you're not. Sometimes if there's a lot of people deal with inferiority complexes, they deal with insecurity, feeling like they're not good enough or feeling like imposter syndrome. And it's often because they think they're just working from home and trying to sell something. But when you start to dress well on a daily basis, when you start to eat properly, and you start to, simple things like putting on your watch in the house, even though you don't have to, putting on shoes to go into your office, whatever, things like that, never ever being in a position where you just operate for the day. You've got to hold yourself to a standard because everything you do will be held to that standard. This might sound ridiculous, but I'm deadly serious about it. And it's so important. It's so important. It gets rid of the imposter syndrome. You've got to try it. Now we're on to the final pillar here, leadership and legacy. Number 25, we've got to make those around you rich. If you win, they win. You've got to think and operate abundantly. I told you earlier that he pays every manager at least $100,000, at least, more like 150. Should he get people for less? Of course, 100%. He could get people for 50,000, a third of it, but he doesn't. And it's not as if he's getting top level executives. These are people that he knew. He's in a community in North Carolina that his family and such are from, and he hires people from that. They didn't have experience, but he rewards them. He takes everybody around him with him. If he's making money, they're making money. But again, what does it do? It creates this sense of abundance. So your goal should not be, I want to be the rich person. You want to make the other people around you rich as well. Everyone that works with you. If you've got staff, contractors, whatever, you want to pay them. Because if you want to pay them, you're going to get paid more. It's a mindset. A lot of this is to do with mindset, but you'll see abundance is a big factor in it all. Number 26, we're coming down to the last few here. The harsh reality is that nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else is capable of doing it. If you want that life where you don't have to worry, you've got to go out there and you've got to create yourself. You can carry the weight. Nobody else can. Like I said earlier, you're here for a reason. You're here because you questioned. Nobody else questioned. Look at your next door neighbor. They didn't question it, right? Walk down the street, go into the supermarket. They didn't question it. Nobody did. You did. And this is a signal. This is a signal of someone who can carry the weight that nobody else can, but as a result, earns the reward that nobody else can. So nobody else is capable of doing it. You've got to do it. And number 27, your standards are set by your vision. If you stay in your home environment, so what I mean is the people that knew you before you became who you wanted to become, before you started to look outside the box, that maybe put you in a box of who they remember you are or you were, things will become difficult for you. People talk about $100,000 per year like it's a lot of money, right? Which it is, but when we're talking about a bigger vision, we're going to start to see that it's not. Because the second you step outside of that and you realize that there are people making that every month, it forces you to level up. You start operating differently. You don't look at which pack of chicken is cheaper, right? You've got bigger fish to fry. You've got ways to go out there and make more money. You think, oh, it doesn't matter which pack of chicken is 50 cents cheaper. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go make an extra 1,000 anyway. It just doesn't matter to me. Because you start operating in that mindset. And it's so infectious. If you get into that environment, which in this group you're in, this is the conversations we have. 100K per year is a fraction of what we can make. We can make 100K per month. That's the difference. And it's a ridiculous thing to say to most people, but not to us. We can say it because you see it, you do it. Forces your environment to level up. You start working differently. You start thinking differently. You start seeing things differently. You don't walk into a clothing store and think, oh, those are a nice pair of shoes. You start looking around and you start thinking, well, I wonder if they're marketing. When you start feeling yourself or seeing yourself think like that, walking into businesses and wondering, are they marketing? Are they doing something? Or if you're in a restaurant, you know you've got what it takes because you've started spotting the opportunities. Number 28, when you stop thinking about making money and start thinking about building a legacy, things start to click into place. All of a sudden, you start moving small. You start making the right decisions and thinking very, very clearly. And this unlocks a lot of progress. So we stop making decisions based on making an extra $100. We start making decisions on saving a little bit of money. We start making decisions on the things that are going to have the big payoffs. If there's a vehicle that's going to take you to 10K per month, is that worth $100? Of course. It definitely is. 100% that's worth it. So you start moving differently. You think, well, it's not $100, it's the potential for 10K. Of course, your energy is different. Of course, you start doing bigger things. You start thinking clearly. You're no longer making decisions based on a couple of dollars. It starts unlocking a lot of progress for you. Number 29, second to last one, you've got to lead the way. Nobody's going to do it for you. There's always going to be something new and shiny. But if you haven't achieved the goal you set out for yourself and kept those promises, you're just going to follow the same pattern. You've got to keep that promise to yourself. And number 30, we've got to be flexible, we've got to be human, and we've got to be fair, because in the end, leadership is not about control. It's about the direction, the energy, and integrity behind it as well, right? You want to build something you're proud of. You want to build something that delivers. You want to build something that you could sell to a family member confidently and be proud of it. When you start moving into those positions, everything becomes easier. And that wraps us up for the 30 truths that I learned from, we'll call him the $70 million man. But to summarize here, most people spend their lives searching for the shortcuts. They want results without the responsibility, the freedom without trying or fighting for it, and the wealth without the responsibility or the weight that comes with it. But the truth is that success is built on standards. Your energy, mindset, your speed of execution, discipline, and your ability to lead yourself when nobody's watching you. And it's so important, right? You've got to do the things when nobody's there to question what you're doing. The guy in North Carolina didn't win because he was special. He won because he moved faster, he thought bigger, and refused to break the promises that he kept or he made to himself. If you do this, if you actually start thinking this way, if you train your mind to see things the way we see things here, if you start thinking bigger, things are going to happen. Momentum is going to build. It's going to multiply your business in a way you've never seen before because you're moving differently, right? You're moving in a way where you've never really moved before. And you start to find that momentum catches up and you give to other people and it comes back to you, but you've got to give the expectation. So it's never about luck. It's about doing it. It's about showing up, and it's about holding those standards and keeping the promises to yourself. And that's what I learned. So those are the 30 truths that I learned from visiting North Carolina and spending time with someone who's built a $70 million business. And that's going to wrap us up for the training. I'm out of breath after that. Does anybody have any questions they wanted to cover or anything they wanted to ask about this or about anything at all? It can be about anything at all that you're looking for help with. Let me know. If not, it is all good. I'm going to be taking those notes, those key points from the trainings, and I'm going to be formalizing them and putting them into a bit of a not necessarily a cheat sheet, but something that you can have in front of you, because I think it is absolutely vital when it comes to your mindset, your belief in yourself, and your progress. So something that I found very, very useful when I went over there.